Welcome back to episode number 7. I believe we're on number 7 of the Columbus Marathon Prep. And today we are going to get a VO2 max test.
As long as you feel good and are performing well, you want to push to your max. So max would mean, hey, I cannot go any longer. I'm totally fatigued.
So the plan is to go down to Nashville, Tennessee. It's about 3 hours from where I live. So it'll be a 3-hour drive. And on the way down there, we'll talk a little bit and I'll explain what I'm planning to get out of the test and how I'm gonna apply it to my training. And then if you're interested in getting one as well, then you can kind of see like what metrics to look for, what I'm gonna take from the test, and I'm gonna learn a lot as well. So I'll bring you along with me so you can learn every piece. That way, if you do end up getting one, you can apply it to your own training and we can both become better runners in the process. But we just finished up an hour run here at Foundry on the treadmill inside. And right now I believe I'm about 33 miles in on the week. It is Thursday. So we still have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to train. Today will be off from strength training. Right now I am strength training 4 times a week. Full body lifts. We've gone through that before. But for today's purpose, we just want to focus on the VO2 max test. So I'm going to take you guys through that entire thing, and that'll be that. So now we're going to pack up. We're going to load the car up and head to Nashville. But first, I got to eat some lunch, and then I will talk to you at the apartment. All right, you guys know the deal. We always keep protein prepped in the fridge, and we cook it on Sundays. If you're part of the community here, cook your protein on Sundays. It's gonna save you a lot of time. So now all we have to do is heat up our chicken, heat up a little tortilla, throw it all in a bowl, and we're ready to go. And the rest of our protein we're just gonna take with us on the way to Nashville. I've been eating these Ezekiel wraps quite a bit. The macros are pretty nuts. 140 calories, 26 grams of carbs, and this thing is huge. I mean, compared to my head, see how big it is. But I made this in literally a matter of 5 minutes. But we have a chicken fajita, essentially peaches, what's left of that rice, and the rest of the chicken. And sometimes that's the way it goes. I had a client check in this morning. I was building out another new clients program when I woke up, and still have more to build out for that, some videos to film, and then I'm gonna do that when I get back from the VO2 max test tonight. So it's a busy day, and sometimes that's how meals are gonna look, but since my protein was prepped, it all worked out. So now I'm gonna eat, I'm gonna shower, and we're gonna get in the car and we're gonna head to Nashville together. Alright, we are on the way to Nashville. So the first thing I want to answer is, why might you do a VO2 max test if you've never heard of one? Essentially, what is going to happen if you want it explained super simple, like if it were me on the other end, how I would want it explained. I'm gonna run on a treadmill, and it's going to increase in intensity slowly over time. I'm gonna be hooked up to an oxygen mask, and I essentially run until I can't anymore. That's the short synopsis. And what it's measuring is how much oxygen my body can utilize, how efficient my body is at utilizing oxygen. And the higher your VO2 max, usually the more, not usually, it is, the more aerobically fit and trained you are for endurance. And what you can do when you get the measurements from the test, you can then see what zones that are specific to you, not just based off of a random, not just based off of a formula where you're guesstimating what your heart rate zone should be for your zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5 training. Now I'll know specific to me exactly where my heart rate needs to be for different styles of training. And while I think data can be super useful, it can be a detriment at times, because there are points where it comes down to you just have to train hard and you have to know when to back off, and it's that simple. But data can be a tool if you use it correctly, and in this case I'm going to use it to kind of see am I training in the right heart rate zones whenever I do, let's say, have my zone 2 runs, or whenever I have my threshold sessions. Am I pushing too hard, or am I not pushing hard enough? Can I probably leave? Am I leaving too much on the table? It's going to tell me those types of things. It also tells you how your body utilizes fuel, so how your body utilizes carbohydrates and fats during your workout through, it's called an RIR, exchange ratio. All it's doing is it's measuring the carbon dioxide that you're breathing out while you're running, and it gives you a breakdown on how your body uses fuel, but that's a little bit besides the point. We're more so doing it to see how we can capitalize on zone specific training, and it's going to be a bitch. There's no other way to put that. It's going to be hard, but tests like this are super beneficial, especially if you want that little bit of a one-up, because when Columbus comes around, I want to know that I left nothing on the table and that I gave that race everything I had. So we're about 2 hours out, 2 hours to go to probably listen to a podcast, think a little bit, and get ready for the test. They told me I can't eat 2.5 hours out, and I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know why, really don't. But I'm gonna be a good boy and listen to directions. So we're not eating. We just ate our last snack. I ate some Oiko's yogurt, banana flavor, of course. We know that's the undefeated, and then 2 of those and an apple. So we're fueled up, and we're 2 hours out. Once we get there, I'm just gonna go into the building, probably let whoever's administering the test talk.
There's an 8-minute slowdown on I-24 East in 5 miles. You're still on the fastest route.
That way you guys can learn from someone who knows a lot more than me, and then we're gonna get at it. So we will see you guys at Transformation Labs whenever we do the VO2 max test. All right, so we made it all the way to Transformation Lab, and now we're just sitting here in the lobby, and they're getting all the equipment set up. So in a second, we're gonna walk through that door over that way, and then we're gonna get the test started. So just waiting right now, and then in about 20 minutes, I'm gonna be feeling it.
Big strap for testing. I see you pulling a heart rate strap straight in here.
Oh, this one's fancy. This is bronze.
Is that good there? Yep. Alright. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start a warm-up protocol. We're going to start off very light and easy. We're going to have you 2 minutes on the treadmill, and then like I said, we'll bump you off. We'll do a little bit of dynamic stretching, then we'll get back on the treadmill. We'll alternate those back and forth for 2 rounds each.
Sounds good.
So I'm going to speed to get a good stride in. And we use a 1% grade just to simulate friction and wind resistance outdoors when you're running.
Yep.
So as far as the structure of the test, it's what we call a ramp test. So what that means is we're going to take different stages or intervals, and we're going to continually increase that intensity as we go through the intervals. So we'll start off nice and light, very easy. Your first stage will actually be at a 4.5 on the speed, so it's going to be pretty low. And then we'll bump up, we'll do a 5.5, then a 6.5, 7.5, so on and so forth. Now as we increase that speed, we're also going to be slowly decreasing the duration of the stages. So we'll start with a couple 3-minute stages, and then we'll be in a 2-minute stage for a couple stages, and then we'll go down to 1 minute. A lot of times at the end, I'll even bump you down to 30-second stages, just so I can get you up to that max a little bit quicker.
Yep.
Our goal is to be somewhere in that 8 to 12 minute range. A little longer than 12 minutes is okay too, especially for this first test where we're trying to get thresholds dialed in, things like that. This is they use what's called a flow meter design, so versus the old snorkel tube you might have seen in the past.
Oh yeah.
What we're going to do is we're going to put a turbine on the front here, and we're actually going to hook it into a sample line, which will take that gas back to the metabolic cart.
That's cool.
Now the perk here is that you're essentially less restricted with your breathing. I'm not going to lie to you and say it's going to feel like free running with no mask on, right? You're still going to know you have a mask on, but at the end of the day, it's a lot more user-friendly than the old snorkel devices.
Got it.
you'll hold that guy in place there. I'm going to throw a little bit of head gear over the top. Let me know if these snaps get too tight for you. Okay, so what we're going to do, we'll get to work here. I'm actually going to push you up one protocol higher than I was originally planning on, just based off your heart rate response. You handled those warm-up stages really easy, and I don't want to have you in here 15, 16 minutes into the test. We still haven't got you up to max, so I'll just push you up one higher protocol. So the speeds will be slightly different than what I said, but it's going to be along the same progression. As long as you feel good and are performing well, you want to push to your max. So max would mean, hey, I cannot go any longer. I'm totally fatigued. Once you get to 4, I'm just going to ask you for a thumbs up. If you want to go another 30 seconds, thumbs down if you don't. Even if you give me a thumbs up, you're not committing to 30 seconds. You're just saying, hey, I want to try for it. If you get fatigued at any point, just show 5 fingers. We'll shut down the test. Here, we're just going to do a quick walking quality control period. We'll let you get used to the mask here for a couple minutes. Last 10 seconds here. We're going to go ahead and start that first stage of the ramp. So we're going to bring the speed up to that 4.9. And here for 3 minutes. Stage, which will be at a 6.1. You're here for 3 minutes. Seconds left here. We'll be at the into the second 3-minute stage. On up. 7.3. We'll be here for 2 minutes. Good. Halfway pause for a little bit here. We're just going to bring that heart rate back down. There's a couple recovery markers we're going to meet. Heart rate coming back down nicely. Just waiting on this black line to set respiratory quotient. We're waiting for that line to make the turn and head on back down as well. How you feeling?
I don't even know. That was crazy.
Very good effort here. I'm glad we bumped that protocol up for you. That was a good fit for your first test.
It was a good fit.
Yeah, it was good.
What does that mean if you bump it up? Like, do we just start at a faster pace, essentially?
Yeah, essentially the steps are going to be a little bit slightly larger, and then we'll start at a little quicker pace.
Gotcha.
The big thing is with VO2 testing, it's always a dance. We want to be able to have enough time to really pick up your thresholds in some of the lower intensity zones.
Gotcha.
But we don't want to have so much time where we start to see premature like fatigue. Maybe your legs get tired before your heart and lungs are fatigued or work. Analyzing your report here.
Awesome. All right, we just got done with the test, and now Kurt is going through the analytics and all the data, and then he's gonna come out here and walk us through the entire test and like what each number means and how you can apply it to your training. But we brought beef and rice, and they have a microwave, so we're in business.
The VO2 max report right off the bat. Of course, everyone's going to want to know, hey, what is my max score?
Mm-hmm.
And you're probably familiar with this, just being in the field and being around some of these metrics, but VO2 is scored on a relative basis. So what that means is essentially we're not just looking at the size of your aerobic engine, we're looking at the size of that engine relative to the size of the vehicle, in this case our bodies that engine is powering.
Got it.
So if you hear VO2 max scores, a lot of times you'll hear like, an elite endurance athlete putting up a score of like 70 or higher, something just off the wall.
Mm-hmm.
You can almost visualize what that individual looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't, not a lot of type 2 muscle fibers for strength and power, right? They probably, for a male, they probably weigh 130 pounds, right? So a lot of those guys, certainly when we look at more of like hybrid type of athletes, we're going to see VO2 maxes in a little bit different range, just because you have to have both the aerobic capacity, but you also have to have the strength and the power to be good at that sport. Excellent, especially for a guy with more of a powerlifting strength type of background.
Heck yeah. That is so cool how you can see all the zones too now. So that would be pretty accurate then for training.
Yeah, and there's going to be day-to-day variability. There's, even apps like Morpheus and some of what Joel Jamison's done.
That's so interesting to me. The 139 to 153 for zone 2. Honestly, I think that you get zone 2, like you could say shamed, like so often that I would say the majority of my runs when I thought they were zone 2 will be like more toward like 135 or below. So technically, could I be not training hard enough for a zone 2 run?
Yeah, and I see that from time to time. You want to be like zone 2. We're talking about like a slightly strained conversation pace. Like it shouldn't be just totally easy, to converse. But we also want to be, aware that, hey, if we get too high, then we're going to start to, accumulate some of that byproduct and lose some of our zone 2 benefits.
Got it. The domain 2, would that just be considered at any point in there that's zone 2 style training, essentially?
Great question. So the domains are kind of one thing, and then if you were to look at where your zones sit, so typically zone 2, as we define it, is going to occur, and a lot of times your LT1 or your aerobic threshold is going to be towards the higher part of your zone 2, towards the top of zone 2.
Got it.
And it makes a lot of sense. Well, if we're in zone 2, we want to be relatively steady state with our byproduct. Our goal of zone 2 training is not to create this big metabolic demand. In fact, we want to increase our ability to perform with efficiency at this lower intensity. And so that's zone 2. Typically when we get into domain 2, we're going to be talking about mostly zone 3 and then early zone 4 type of training. And then of course zone 4 is going to straddle that second threshold, so that's where a lot of times we do our threshold type of intervals, like 3-2 type of intervals. And then zone 5, which again you could further subdivide if you wanted to. We'll look forward to getting you back maybe after your race sometime. And
that's the plan. That's what we'll do. I appreciate it a ton.
Yeah, well, pleasure to have you in.
We are back in the car. We have a 3-hour drive ahead of us, so I still got to drive all the way back tonight and still get some work done. But that is a wrap on the VO2 test. I hope that I left enough of the parts where he was talking about the report, Kurt, at the end, to where you can learn something from it and hopefully get yours done at some point in time. But to give you a reference, on my Garmin watch it says that my VO2, it estimates it at 58, and then when I got this test done, it estimated it at 53. And obviously a ton of different stuff can affect it in terms of like how hard you trained that day ahead of time, where you're at in a training block, how fatigued you are. But I think that's an honest result. I haven't ever really put in a huge running block in terms of a base, and that's why I'm doing the marathon prep now and sharing with you everything that I learn along the way. I have a huge background, obviously, in lifting and strength training and nutrition. And then we got into high rocks pretty early, but never have I been a super crazy endurance athlete, I would say. So 53 was the result on this test. I'm gonna come back and retest again at the end after we run the marathon and just see kind of where we're at with that. But I hope once again that you guys got something from that, learned something from it. This is the report that I got, so if you ever do get one, you can see the zones right here. So like zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4. So now I know what heart rate I should be at based on the type of training I'm doing for me specifically. Super helpful. So if you've never got one, I'd recommend it. But that is going to be a wrap on this video, guys. I hope that you got to learn more about what a VO2 max is. I know I learned a lot. I never think you're too far along to learn. So I will see you on the next one.